Hey, we got a project going on today a little bit different than what we've been doing, but it's still related to our overall pond project. That's right, we are building our own floating dock. You've seen these all over YouTube if you've searched for it. I guess there's everything on YouTube now. But we've used some of the advice that we found from these other YouTube videos, and then, like natural, we're gonna put our own twist on it. Let's get started.
Before we get started, press that like button and subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.
By far the best dock that I've seen on YouTube is the one put in by Neil at Dig Drive DIY. Nice concrete dock, pre-planned to perfection, just like Neil always does, right? I mean, he's got everything all pre-planned. He does things perfectly from day one. Well, I didn't even think I wanted a dock. So even after I saw him on YouTube and our pond was still dry, I didn't think that I wanted a dock. So I definitely didn't want to spend that much money on a dock, and I was thinking, that's pretty and all, but we're not going to be swimming in this. We don't really even need a dock. We're not going to go that direction at all. Well, here I am, just a few months later. What you doing, Dave?
Putting in these cross braces. They're also going to be holding in our barrels, but they add rigidity the other direction.
Another channel whose dock I took a look at was Indie Farm Life. That channel is actually fairly close to here, and I should have just set up an appointment and went to visit him because his dock is pretty impressive. So we've used some of that one, and then I saw several others that we've used pieces of in our thinking. You know, as is natural, we're going to do it our own way, just partially. I guess it's just kind of the American way, right? Everybody's got to be a little bit different. One thing that I'm going to try that the other guys didn't is I'm going to try using 30-gallon barrels instead of 55-gallon barrels. I just think they're a little bit too high, and other guys have talked about using the 55s and then filling them with water or putting some water in them, etc. So we're going to try to use the 30-gallon varieties. I got one here, and we've created these little cubbies here to hold them. Now this is the top side, so these will be on the bottom. But that's what each of these cubby holes is for, is specific to hold one of these barrels. Notice we're building it inside. It's 95, 96 degrees this week.
It's warm out.
So we're gonna have a challenge. We've seen challenges on YouTube where other people are building them right beside the pond and they're having trouble getting them in. Well, equipment is something we're blessed with, so we've already had this frame outside once. It's a lot heavier now. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, well, luckily we've got some skilled operators, but sometimes they forget to do things. Like now.
What did we forget now?
Look at the other side, Tim.
What did I do?
You're our triangle man.
Oh!
Where's my line?
I am the scribe, and I forgot to make a mark. And Dave is held up. So yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see us move this in and out of the shed. We may have to do it multiple times because we got other stuff we have to be doing. Another challenge that we're going to be introducing is we're actually going to put a structure on the top. Yep, that's our goal, is we're actually going to put a gazebo. I thought gazebos were always, you know, like 8-sided or something. But on the internet, they seem to consider a gazebo to be any outdoor structure without walls. This guy makes a lot of noise, doesn't he?
Hey, you told me to do it.
I chose to use 2x8 lumber. I've seen people use 2x12, 2x10. I just don't think it needs to be built that heavily. Maybe I'm wrong.
Why not 2x4s?
Well, that's an interesting question. I didn't think that was heavy enough. But more than that, I didn't think that the barrel would have enough space to fit in that 3.5-inch cavity. One thing, Dave, that I've seen by a few of the amateur builders is they've built these cubby holes really wide, and they say, oh, as long as the barrel is contained, it's fine.
Right.
And so the barrel can actually roll around, but what it looks like to me is they're trying to hold the whole dock up
with the
decking. And so we're not going to do that.
No, we've built this, and we actually did a couple of iterations to make sure we had the right spacing. so that we're squeezing the barrel and we're trying to not let it pop up through there. And we've kind of discussed putting some wedges in. We're not sure if we're going to do that yet or not, but
Yeah.
the boards are as tight as they can get without being too high out of the water, essentially.
And that's why we're being so thorough about these cross-side blocks here, is
Right.
we don't want these joists to be turning like that or bowing,
Yep.
right? So we're gonna have this blocked all the way across so that the joists have no place to go. The barrel has no place to go, but into the joist, nothing's gonna give.
Right.
We have chosen a 17-inch spacing between the joists, and so I guess that's 18.5 on center, but 17-inch in between, and that seems to work well with these 30-gallon barrels if you're interested in that. There's several others on YouTube that have sized the larger barrels for 55. I just didn't see anybody that had done it for
Right.
the 30-gallon. Now these are about 29.5 inches long, so we are 31 on center for our length. Okay. Now you'll notice that our blocks are not consistent, right? We've got different setups and different rows. That's because of some of the things we're going to be putting in for our vertical structure, and in some cases just outside hardware that's going to be put on. We're going to have a gangway on this end, so we've got the hinges down here, so we need to be able to access those. We don't want those bolts sticking out into our barrels.
Right.
Okay, we've got all the blocking in at this point. I haven't counted exactly how many barrels we need, but we need 5 on the outside 2 rows. And then I believe we have 4 rows of 6. 24 and 10, 34 barrels. That should be a lot of barrels. Of course, we don't have to fill every area, but we're planning to. These center 2 sections won't have any barrels in them at all. But we felt it was important to have blocking in here so that we could maintain the structure of the whole thing, not allow those joists to move around. Now Dave and I are starting to work right now on the vertical posts for the gazebo and how we're going to get those put into the frame itself, and I think we've got a plan. Let's see if it works. The other thing we've added are these hinges for our gangway. I'll put a link to the video below. I wish I could remember the YouTuber's name that used these exact hinges and showed this exact approach that I'm going to be using for the gangway, but if I can remember, I'll put a link in the description to this guy's video. It was a very meticulous video. He showed a lot of detail on how he did his. It was very well thought through. And so he's doing all of the control of the entire dock from the gangway into posts that are set on the side of the bank. And I'm thinking about that approach, but I'm still up in the air on that. Meanwhile, these outside to outside are 45 inches so that we can have a 4-foot gangway coming right down here. We got to drill holes through this vertical post, and it's hard for us to drill because we got to drill them straight. That's a real challenge for me. We're drilling them straight because we have to put plates on both sides. So Dave's got a neat trick here.
It's just a regular old iPhone. It's the measurement app, and so this, that's close enough we can show you here. So what this is doing is it helps us to indicate level, and when it goes green on there.
Is this app included with?
Yeah, it's on there, and it does this. There's a bunch of different things you can play with it. What we're going to use is like this. And what it gives us is 2 circles you got to line up, and then the screen goes green, and that tells us we're level.
Okay. Let's turn it over now and grade ourselves. Look at that.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Off half a hole.
Yeah, that's not bad.
So the way I want to deal with that is, instead of going back in the exact hole, I'm going to go back in where I'm supposed to be. And that'll let it hopefully find its Did you thread those holes before you tried to put the bolts in?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, they're good. Yeah.
Just like that?
Yeah, exactly, yes. Ooh.
Gonna be close, isn't it?
Ooh.
I accidentally got one bag of 6.5-inch bolts. I think they're not gonna have a lock washer, Dave.
I don't think they're gonna have a washer today.
Maybe not even a flat washer, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, we can still get a washer on them.
Yeah. We can use the 8-inchers if we need to.
These lock washers are just gonna rust anyways.
Yeah, I didn't buy galvanized lock washers, so Dave's telling me the whole thing's gonna fall down because of these zinc
Yep.
lock
It's gonna
washers.
cause the galvanized to rust out and the wood to rot and
And I'll drown myself while I'm napping.
no, it'll be slower than that. You'll wake up.
You want to tighten these now or later?
I say tighten them now.
Interesting point here. You'd say, well, how are you leveling it? It's just sitting on the floor. Well, it is sitting on the floor. The barrels are all consistent. We have tested the level. It actually turns out to be pretty close. So we're going to assume like we're building it right here in the shop. Okay. I assumed you were level.
I think I like that for level.
Okay.
Looks like I'd almost say we're even, I know the top this way doesn't matter as much, but we are also level for the most part that way.
So those two screws are just temporary, you might say. Yeah, we're going to leave them in there, but now we're going to attach bolts here and here. Here's some tricks I learned during the barrel installation. I did all this myself, and that was a bit of a challenge because having an extra set of hands would have helped. I used this nylon strapping to hold the barrels up under there. This is only to get it to the pond. We won't need those straps in an ongoing, there's just no use for them because the barrels will be held up and gravity will hold the rest of the dock down on top of them. What I did was I used fender washers and 1 3/4 inch screws. I started by screwing the screws through a fender washer up through the bottom of these joists here, and then I would let it just hang down there, jack it up with my floor jack, and roll the barrel into place, and then lower the floor jack to squeeze down over the barrel. As it turns out, our cubbies were barely big enough. In fact, they're perfect because the barrels can't move in them at all. Lower the floor jack, get them on top of that, and then I would come through with another screw, tighten that strap up as best I could, screw up in there, and do them one barrel at a time. So I lifted and lowered this dock with the floor jack. It would have been 34 times for the 34 barrels that we've got, but I learned later on a couple of tricks that made it so I could do at least 2 at a time. I'll show you that. I bought 50 yards of the nylon strapping material, and I wasn't sure how much I was actually going to need, so I was pretty careful about not wasting any of it until I got about halfway done, and I thought, well, this is just not working. I was having a lot of trouble screwing those screws up through the bottom of those joists, and I changed my approach to where I put the screws through the fender washers still, but just did it on the sides here, right? So this is the start. I screwed it right in there, let it droop. At the same time I went to that approach, I stretched out enough to do all 3 segments that would be in a row here, and then just cut the strap, and then did the same thing on another row, right? That allowed me to move at least 2 barrels in at a time. If I did it with 3 at a time, did 3 separate straps here, I could do 3 barrels at a time. Made it a lot easier for the jacking it up and down, because that got kind of tiring. It was a little bit more difficult because I had to get 3 barrels positioned at the same time, or 2 barrels at least, before I could drop it. But overall, this seemed to work well. Not every one of my straps is perfectly tight. Sometimes when it gets lifted, the barrels, you'll see them sag maybe a 1/2 inch or 1 inch. I don't think that's going to matter in the long term, but it was one weakness. Well, these 4 posts, Dave's got one there. That seems to have a little give left in it, Dave.
Same as that one down there. It's not in the corner. Our corner joists are a little bit more solid, just because they're mounted in the corner. You got 2 boards holding it, whereas this one's really only supported by 1 board. So
yeah, so what you're moving there is the joist,
right,
like this. Yeah.
Yes.
Makes perfect sense. Now, we bought a bunch of these inside corner pieces, and we're using them in unconventional ways.
A little bit.
So we used them to attach these posts. I couldn't come up with another way that I thought was really going to be strong. Just screwing them in with those spacks was not going to be sufficient for what we're trying to hold and how we're trying to hold it. So we may have overkilled this, Dave, but...
Well, but we got big ideas and big dreams for this.
Yeah.
So.
We'll not get to all this in this episode, but we are going to put a roof over this. I'd like to put a link to the plans that we used here in this video, but I can't because we purchased them online. But this is what we're going to have so far. At this point, we're going to put the band boards around the top. We can't build upward anymore. We won't be able to get out of the shop. We can get those band boards, and then I think the fun's going to begin. We're going to try to get this thing out of here.
Oh yeah, it'd be a blast. What do we have for weight sitting here?
You keep saying that it's going to be fun whether it works or not. I don't think it's going to be as fun for me if it doesn't work.
That's probably true, but entertainment value is the same either way.
Eh, boy. I don't know how much we have here, Dave. I did some calculation, though, on the barrels.
Yeah.
34 barrels. Fully submerged, they would hold up 240 pounds per barrel.
248 according to me and neighbor.
Why is that?
We looked it up. We Googled.
That does not make any sense to me, because if all the air were out of these barrels, they had 30 gallons of water in them, maybe they'll hold more than 30 gallons.
I think they'll hold slightly more than 30 gallons. The online set of Google said that a 30-gallon barrel would hold 248 pounds.
Okay.
It would take 248 pounds to submerge it.
I'll share my theory, and then you can go with Dave's fact. My theory was that if you removed all the air out of this barrel and filled it with water, that it would be buoyant. It
Right.
wouldn't float, but it really wouldn't sink very fast either.
Right.
Okay. Maybe minus the weight of the actual barrel. But if you put any air in this barrel, then it'll float.
Well, I got one for you.
What?
So if I put 250 pounds of lead shot in that doesn't fill that barrel. Does it sink?
No, this is water.
Right.
It wouldn't sink in lead.
But it would sink in water. Okay.
Because lead's heavier
That's heavy. Yeah,
than
yeah.
water. I'm talking about putting water inside the barrel, floating it in water.
Right.
In theory, it would just be buoyant
Right.
if there were
it
no
would
air
be
in it.
neutral, essentially.
As soon as we put a little bit of air into the barrel, it will float.
Right.
Okay? So that means 240 or 248 pounds. If I go with 240, now I really don't want to sink them all the way, right?
No,
Because then I would be up to the deck.
Almost up to the, yeah.
So if I sink them halfway, it'd be 120 pounds
Per barrel.
per barrel.
Right. And you said we had 34 of them?
120 pounds halfway. 34 barrels is 4,080 pounds. I don't know how much weight we have in the product here, but I do think that putting a few people on there, especially with some girth like I have and you have,
Yeah, yeah.
we may be in the 4,080 pound range. But remember that every inch right in there is going to
True.
take a lot
True.
of more weight.
Because actually it takes twice that to sink it.
Yep.
Well, twice that to make it.
And then it
neutral.
won't sink because it's wood.
Yeah, but we can sink wood.
I have to put up with this all the time. Well, we didn't get the banding all done around the top. I really wanted to move it in this episode, get it out of here, mainly just to show you success or failure on that topic. But you'll have to wait till next time on that. We'll get the rest of these bands around the top, get it out of here, and then we can start building the roof of our gazebo at that point. Pretty excited about this. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll be back to tractor projects next episode, actually. I just decided I had to work on this because it seemed like fun, and Christy wanted a place to relax around or on the pond. So that's why. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim. For we know that if the earthly tent we live in is destroyed, we have a building from God, an eternal house in heaven, not built by human hands.
See, folks, with the magic of television, this is going to take one episode. We've been at this for 3 weeks.
You're selling us short, Dave.
It's been a busy 3 weeks. I mean, it's not a total of 3 weeks hours on it, it's just a total of 3 weeks time.